Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and I hope you're having a great Wednesday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. Today's episode is really going to be about how you can eat and live your life with the seasons. This is something and kind of a concept that I feel like I really developed and started to integrate into my lifestyle within the last year. We definitely practiced this as a household last winter, and is something I'm planning to continue on into this winter season, fall to winter, just as the days get a little bit shorter, because I feel like we stayed very, very healthy last winter, and it wasn't because we didn't go see people or socialize. But really, I feel like these are just foundational things that maybe we've gotten a little more disconnected from, because we live in a country where you can get any food at any season, or any food of every season at any time in the year. We have access to medications and different supplements that allow us to maybe stay healthier than usual, but I think these will really just up the game when it comes to avoiding the flu, avoiding colds, and ultimately just building up your immune system. But before we get into that, we are going to do a little bit of a catch up, just some random things that have been coming to my mind even today. I don't know if it's the pregnancy hormones, but I feel just a different type of rage towards certain topics or certain things that come up. And a lot of the things I'm not getting into because we do not talk about politics on this podcast. Not my place. This is not what you came here for. But some things just really fire me up. And I'm like, ooh, I should talk about that on the podcast. And I'm like, no, Bailey, we should not. We need to just keep that in. Or there was something my mom sent me about my favorite diet program ever, and somebody who sells that diet. And it's just, again, it fills me with so much frustration, because we're also entering into a season where people want to manipulate and convince you into doing everything you can to be skinny as we enter the holiday season, or as you maybe go on like a summer beach vacation or a winter beach vacation, or even entering into the new year. Like, you have to come with a new expectation for yourself that you're going to lose X amount of weight this winter. And it's also weight focused. Like, every single time, I know we're approaching the new year, which I know we're only in the end of October, but it's going to come so fast. And November and December is when these companies like to prey on you to commit to something so you can get ahead of whatever commitment you're wanting to make by the first of the year, and really just promise yourself that you're going to lose X amount of weight. And I just hate that narrative. I think it's so disgusting. And also a huge piece of why I did talk about weight loss on last week's episode. And again, I didn't do that to feed into the narrative that you always need to be looking to lose weight. I think that a lot of people come to me wanting to do that, and I will flat out say I am not a weight loss focused coach. That is not what I specialize in. If you're wanting to heal your body in a holistic way, if you want to feel good and you want to minimize the symptoms that are maybe a result of carrying some extra weight, that is something I can do with you. I'm not focused on the scale. My clients do not weigh themselves. They do not take progress photos. They do not measure their bodies, because I just think it is so irrelevant if you truly want to heal your internal body to put so much of a focus on your external appearance. I think it's, and I say this kindly, but I think it's very superficial, and it's something that is always fleeting. I talked about last week how your body is changing throughout all seasons of your life, and if you don't appreciate it at all stages or seasons of your life, you will never really value your body and want to take care of it in a way that honors it. If you're always chasing a number on the scale, or if you're always trying to look like this person, it's just not sustainable and it's not fulfilling. And I think true fulfillment comes when we start actually appreciating our body enough to eat well, to move it gently or gradually, to do the things that we know we need to do to regulate cortisol and not feel stressed all the time, to do the necessary mindset work, to support our appreciation for our body. There's just so much that goes into it. And so I just did not want to feed into the weight loss narrative, and hopefully you didn't get that vibe. But again, I just think we're entering into that season, and I just really hope for you that you enter into this new year feeling optimistic and excited to take care of your body, not doing anything out of self-hatred, which is just never what I want to promote when it comes to how we take care of our temples and our physical body. So anyway, when that came up, I'm like, oh, I could really go on a rant, which maybe that just was a tiny bit of a rant. But there's just things that I feel like we are in a very high tension state, especially if you obviously most, I think if not all my listeners probably are within the United States, but just with the election coming up, like tension is high and people really want to get out and just spew their opinion to anybody who will listen. And it's just too much. And so I'm going to talk about that when I talk about how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. If you're kind of over it and you need to just get connected from that whole sphere, then there is something that I've actually implemented into how I approach social media that I think will be super helpful for you. But outside of that, there's a topic that came up when I was listening to the Already Friends podcast today. They were talking about a dopamine detox, and it's something that I've honestly considered doing for a while. I feel like with social media, I notice myself, like if I go to the bathroom, I'm going to scroll on my phone, or obviously like washing my hands clean. That was just so gross, but I think we all do it. You know what I'm talking about. You're sitting at your desk and you're waiting for something to load on your computer, so you grab your phone. Or you're making supper and you have a YouTube video playing in the background. Like all of these things that just are overstimulating. I even notice sometimes if I'm on my phone right away in the morning, and that is the first thing that I look at when I wake up, I am much more inclined to unnecessarily scroll on my phone the rest of the day if that's how I start my day. I'm really big on starting your day, getting that face in the sunlight, not looking at your phone. Remember that kind of method I like is the sunlight before blue light method, I guess, in a sense. But when I don't do that, then I notice I scroll way more. Like today, even went and got raw milk because I opened my phone this morning to shut off my alarm, and then I saw that I didn't turn it on airplane mode when I went to bed, which is something I always do because I hate getting notifications throughout the night, and I hate when my phone lights up. I also charge my phone outside of like the proximity to our bed just because I don't want it in my space. I don't want it alerting me. I don't want anybody contacting me when I go to bed. Anyway, but I did look at it today because I noticed, again, I didn't turn off airplane mode and I had all these messages that then popped up. And it just already sent my heart like beating so fast. I didn't get outside to watch the sunrise before I looked at my phone. And then when I was on my way to get raw milk today, I was not texting or on my phone and driving, but I noticed if there were moments where I was stopped at a intersection or if I was waiting to get the raw milk and sitting in my car for a while, like I was looking at my phone for no reason. Like you can only check your phone so many times before you're like, why am I doing this? Like, this is so stupid. And it's so frustrating that is the first thing that I think to do. And so I've been throwing around this idea of doing a dopamine detox. And I want to talk about what that is. I feel like it might be kind of fun to do a dopamine detox challenge on the Instagram Nourish with Purpose group that I have on there. I need to figure out how I can get you guys to communicate back with me because I hate that it's like a one-sided conversation on there, and I want to be more active with that group. There's just a lot on my plate, as does everybody have a lot on their plate, but it's not the first thing, truthfully, that I think to do, but I think it could be fun. So if you're listening, you're like, oh, I'm interested in a dopamine detox, please message me or reach out to me and let me know your level of interest. I might even do, if you're listening on Spotify, like a poll at the end of the episode to see and kind of get a gauge for what we're thinking on doing that as a group in the month of November, because when I was thinking about it, I really just feel like I want to be able to enter into Thanksgiving and Christmas and feel so disconnected from my phone that I just genuinely enjoy the time spent with family. I know in years past when maybe people weren't at gatherings that I wanted to see, like for example, when Nate and I weren't married and he wasn't there, it's like, well, I want to message him because he's alone on Christmas and I don't want him to feel lonely and I wish he was here. And then you kind of lose disconnection from what you're doing in real life. And I think that those holidays are so special and it's such an intentional time to be with friends and family that it's really sad when you look around and everybody's on their phone or everybody's scrolling. Like I just really don't like that. And I know that I'm also very guilty of doing that. And so I think it would be so cool to be able to enter into Thanksgiving and Christmas feeling disconnected from technology to the point where like it doesn't even cross your brain because you don't need that dopamine hit from checking social media or short form content like TikTok. And so what I really think this dopamine detox would consist of, and again, this is not set in stone, but I would like to do it for the entire month of November. And I know initially I would like to delete TikTok, delete Lemonade, delete Snapchat. I hate all three of those platforms. Well, I do like Lemonade, but I don't really scroll on there at all anyway. So deleting TikTok, delete Lemonade, which most people probably aren't even on. For you, this might look different. And then delete Snapchat. And in that sense, then we're getting rid of the platforms that I know for me, especially with TikTok, is one that I will mindlessly scroll for way too long. And then I never, ever, ever leave that app feeling better than when I opened it. So with all those apps off my phone, then I would set some guidelines around Instagram. Like for me, creating content is really fun, and I love to edit videos that I record for recipes. So I would continue to do that, record and edit videos, but only posting and allowing myself to have about 30 minutes total of time on social media or a certain time frame. So like I'm only going to check social media from 9 to 10 a.m., not the entire time, right? But have that window of if I need to check it or check DMs, that's when I can do it. And then maybe from like 3 to 4 in the afternoon would be that time frame I'd give myself to look at Instagram. But again, setting that boundaries. I want to completely remove any sort of social media from my day on Sunday in honor having a true Sabbath that is disconnected, that is time spent with family and friends, that is time spent with my husband, getting outside, doing things that are very energy giving, not energy draining, which I've noticed, again, the habit for me is on Sundays, I will doom scroll on TikTok. It's like the one day of the week that I do that. And again, I don't ever feel better when I leave the app. So getting rid of that. And then the last thing, well, there's two things. When it comes to consuming content, I want to only focus on consuming long-term or long-form content. So that would be like watching a movie or watching a TV series in the evenings or watching YouTube while I'm walking on the treadmill. Like those are things that I feel, I love YouTube, and I feel like I always leave watching those videos like uplifted and inspired to get more creative and visualize or just like change how I make visuals when it comes to social media. I don't know. I've just found a lot of inspiration from it. And so I would like to then add that in, remove any short form content scrolling. So even like shorts on YouTube would not be included. More so just listening to podcasts, again, movies, TV shows, YouTube. And then the last thing, and this is more of probably it's going to be specific to you. It'd be like a dietary change. So for me, I know I want to wait at least 30 minutes after every meal to have something sweet. I don't feel like that's something that I really struggle with, but I think that quick hit of a sugar intake sometimes after supper is what I really am looking forward to. And I would say that's definitely changed with pregnancy is I don't feel like I crave sweets really at all. But it will typically be, maybe a little bit after the meal where I'm like, oh, my mouth just needs something sweet. Like I ended it on something savory. I want something. And so I want to give myself that 30 minutes to truly analyze how my body's feeling and not just eat a dessert to eat dessert, but to notice okay, am I hungry? Am I eating out of boredom? Am I eating out of habit? And I feel like that 30-minute window after each meal is kind of a good gauge of understanding what my body needs and knowing do I really just need to go tongue scrape and brush my teeth and go to bed, or do I really want something sweet? So I just think that that is going to be how I approach the dopamine detox, again, kind of starting in the month of November. If that's something you're interested in doing together, I would love to even create an accountability or support group around it because it's hard. And I guess at the same time, we're trying to reduce social media. So I don't want to create a platform that's going to require us to constantly be checking. But again, create those boundaries around when you're going to be on Instagram. And then maybe that's when you check the group and see hey, how's everybody doing with the detox? I don't want it to be overwhelming or bombard people with information or, even just messages around it. But again, I feel like sometimes having a group of people that you know are doing it with you can be really helpful. So if you're interested, again, shoot me a message because I'd be curious to know if I'm the only one who's feeling this way or, I don't know, kind of get a gauge. But outside of that, kind of jumping into a catch up for this last weekend, we went to a Halloween party on, I think it was Saturday, and Nate and I ate at an Indian restaurant, but we also went shopping for pregnancy clothes before we actually did that. And I'm just going to tell you, pregnancy pants are not it. I have sworn that I will not be wearing a pair of jeans until I deliver this child and feel confident, not even confident, I feel confident now, but comfortable enough to wear a pair of jeans, because buying jeans that are for pregnancy, like, I don't know who designs them. It's surely not somebody who's actually pregnant or has ever been, because they are so uncomfortable. They're so like low waisted that I felt like my butt crack was going to show. And I'm like, we don't need plumber butt. Like, this is not cute. And so I ended up just getting a pair of leggings and a sports bra that were a size up from what I typically wear. And then I got this like brown onesie from Target. And I then did some shopping actually earlier this week on Free People to get a pair of linen pants and then another pair of like their barrel jeans, but they're more structured and they have a stretchy waistband. I got some oversized sweaters to wear over leggings this season and just really am excited to have some new clothes in my wardrobe, but I was so annoyed when I went shopping because the options are just nothing. Granted, we only went to Target, and I feel like most people wear stretchy pants anyway, if you're pregnant or not. So that's probably what people are wearing throughout their whole pregnancy. But I think it's just so different when you have to wear something so low on your body. And I feel like I've always been like a mid-rise or a high-rise gal. Like, that's the type of clothes I like to wear. With pregnancy, I hate things on my stomach. Like, I want to wear things super low rise, but again, then you have the issue of having your butt crack showing. So anyway, that's been an adventure on its own. I told Nathan that when my friends get pregnant and people close to me get pregnant, I'm going to give them a gift card, a pretty hefty gift card to buy clothes for themselves, because that is something that I think is kind of not under talked about, but a lot of the time, like, it's an investment to buy clothes to wear during pregnancy. Granted, a lot of the things still fit me fine right now. I'm not in the later months, but again, it's like finding even pants that I could wear to Thanksgiving that aren't going to look like sweatpants and still be comfortable and hit at the right part of my body. Like, I was on Free People and I spent almost $300 on pants, 2 pairs of pants. Like, granted, you would not need to go on Free People. I invested in pants that I know I will wear after pregnancy because they're stretchy. Again, they're a style and a size that I would wear after I deliver. But at the same time, I'm like, it is just so ridiculous that we spend that much money on clothes to wear during pregnancy just so we can feel good and confident in our bodies as they're changing, because it's such a rapid change. And it's really not something I've struggled with mindset wise. Like, when I was shopping, it wasn't like, oh, I look disgusting, these clothes are not cute. It was more so just the frustration around the quality and the lack of inclusivity for pregnant people. I don't know, that sounds very extreme. But you seriously walk into Target and there's a huge section for, women, a huge section for juniors, a huge section for plus size, and then you walk to like the baby section and they had 2 racks of clothing. It was such a joke. I'm like, this is a total joke. I feel like Target used to be the place that would have such a selection, and it was so pathetic. And then meanwhile, Target, I don't know if you've been to Target recently. I feel like their organization has really gone down the pooper, and it's like even finding a size that works for you is nearly impossible because there's nothing that's organized. Like, it is, anyway, it was an adventure of its own, but we got that done. I got a couple things. Again, I placed an order on both Amazon and Free People, and I don't know how much to share because my typical content is very food and holistic health related, but I do want to share more about like the pregnancy experience, about finding clothes and clothes that work and brands that I like. And so I'm trying to kind of find a balance of like what I share and what I don't, because that's not initially what people probably care the most about. But I know for me, even before I got pregnant, like I was very interested in seeing the whole process of like people decorating a nursery or buying clothes that made them feel good or eating in a way that supported their body if they were nauseous. And so, I don't know, again, I'm trying to kind of find the balance with sharing enough but not oversharing because, I don't know, it's very different content than what I'm used to doing. And not that my whole life revolves around the content I create. Obviously, I don't post that much and I'm not that big on social media, but it is a creative outlet for me and something I really enjoy. And I just want people to kind of feel along with me in the process because I think I'd probably do some things that are very different and non-traditional in a sense. And so, I don't know, sharing some of that. Anyway, I'm still messing around with it. I have not shared too much, especially because it's still pretty early on. I'm halfway done now. Not halfway done, halfway at the halfway mark. Anyway, we find out the gender next week. So next week's podcast episode, we will know if it is a boy or a girl, which is something I obviously have been waiting feels like forever for. Our hospital or the midwife clinic that we're going through, they have you go at 21 weeks. And so I'm like, I always thought it was 20 weeks. And so I was expecting this week. And then I'm like, no, it's next week, November 5. So we will know by next podcast episode if I record that day, which I probably will. I will, of course, share it with you. We're not doing anything big or fancy. We're truly just going to share what it is because Nate and I have both realized we've waited long enough and we are not people that like a lot of attention. And so doing it this way just feels the most comfortable for us. Not going to do any big shebang, just let people know. And it's going to be super exciting. I feel like we've been talking a little bit more about names. I feel like why it's hard for me to really, I don't know, I've not talked about this, but I always kind of felt like it would be a girl. And I have names picked out for a girl. I've had one forever and ever that I just love. And then I feel so connected. Like if it's a girl, I'd feel so connected because there's some names that I think we could use that would just make me feel connected. Well, when it comes to boy names, this is not a diss on any men in my life, but I just truly don't find a guy name that I ever really like. And I will hear some, of course, and even like the town that we live in, I love some of these names, but it's like also being able to visualize that name for your own child is hard. And so I actually heard one this weekend. I'm like, I think that's what we're going to use. And so now it's like, well, if it's a boy, like I'm actually really excited because not that I wasn't excited, but a new kind of excitement because I feel like if that would be one of the names or the name that we would use, I would again feel much more connected knowing that there is a name that I actually like. That's a boy name because that's just always been so hard for me. There's a lot of names for girls that I like. For boys, it's just kind of a toss-up. So that made me feel a lot better. I feel a lot more at ease going into this next week. I will be very excited for either, of course. It's just such a blessing in itself. And so anyway, that is coming up. Very excited and so excited to share that with you. And I also had this thought today. As I was driving to get raw milk, I brought Luna with me, and I have to drive about 30 minutes to pick it up and then 30 minutes home, obviously. But when I was driving, she was like trying to crawl onto my lap, which she has never ever done before. And I've noticed too, like even when I'm sitting on the couch, she wants to be super cozy. And it had me thinking, like, do dogs know when you're pregnant? Like I swear today when we were driving, she like sniffed my stomach and then tried to like crawl into my lap when I was driving. I'm like, Luna, we are not doing this. This is not safe. But I'm like, why do you want to be so close to me? It's just different. She's always been like a cozy and friendly dog, but not like a cuddler. After she got her haircut this last time, I feel like she finally wanted to be touched again. But before that, it was like, please do not touch me. Her hair was so long that I feel like she just got agitated by it. But now she's so cozy and wants to curl up and just be as close as she can. So I don't know if there's any validity to that or if any research that you could analyze to see if dogs can detect when you're pregnant, but I just thought it was super weird that she did that. And I don't know, it's really comforting. Like I like it. I'm going to be sad if after I deliver she's like super far removed from me, but it's been funny to watch just her kind of like develop a closeness to me that I don't feel like she's ever really had before. So something, if you know, or if you have any research to back that up, please share that with me because I'm very curious. Okay, so let's move into the section of how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. How I'm nourishing my mind. This is when it comes, and I'm not talking about politics, but what I'm doing to kind of just silence some voices that I don't want to hear is I'm muting people on social media that share a lot about politics in a very I'm right, you're wrong, your opinion doesn't matter type of way. It's not a good vibe, and I don't like that. I also don't like how politics sway my impression of somebody one way or the other. I feel like so many people have such an identity in their political affiliation. And I was thinking today, I'm like, what if people had that much of themselves consumed into their religion? Like, I think the world would look a lot different if we put all of that energy and all of that attention into our religious beliefs and really just like sharing those so confidently online versus trying to sway people one way or another to like vote for a certain politician. Like I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of seeing it. So I've been muting people. And again, it's nothing personal. I really would like to like people that I already like in real life without seeing what they post about politics. So I've just been muting their accounts. And after, probably 2 weeks after the election, I'll go through and unmute their accounts. Again, it is nothing towards negativity towards these people. I just don't want to see it. I feel like it's everywhere enough as it is. And I get people want to share things that they're passionate about. I'm obviously not passionate about sharing that side of me because it's just not my brand. It's not me. It's not me to argue with people and try to belittle them or make everyone think or kind of think that my opinion is better than anybody else's or above anybody else's. I am passionate about sharing health and wellness, and I probably get a little preachy in that sense to talk about food and how you move your body and holistic habits. Like, that's where I thrive. I do not thrive in talking about politics or arguing politics. So again, if you need to, it's okay to mute those people that are posting a lot about it. If you are super into posting about it, awesome, good for you. Like, you found something you're passionate about, and that's awesome. For me, I just don't want that in my face all the time. So I think a huge piece of also getting off of TikTok is that, because a huge part of scrolling is just all of the sides of politics that I, again, don't really want to see, that never really improve my life, that just make me more frustrated and confused and honestly bitter and upset. And so it's like, I just know it's not really serving me right now. So I'm trying to remove that from what I see visually and get kind of emotionally involved in or attached to day to day. How I am nourishing my body is I am integrating some heavy weightlifting again. This is something I go back and forth on all the time. And if you know, when I always talk about this, I feel like I talk about the same thing, but there is something about pregnancy that just makes me feel so strong, even physically, like when I'm lifting weights. I just feel so good when I'm lifting heavy weights during pregnancy. It's just a different feeling. I don't even know how to explain it. I think part of it too, because I work out at my parents' and they have the best setup, but I think part of it too is they have mirrors down there. So like I can see my body, I can see how it changes every time I go to work out. And I honestly feel great. Like it's so, I don't know. It encourages myself to look at my body and be like, your body's changing and it's growing a person, and you're still lifting weight like this, and you're still prioritizing exercise or moving your body every single day, even if it's not super high intensity. There's just something about it that makes me feel super proud of myself, I guess, humbly to say that. And so that is just something I've been enjoying. And I've just been making up my own workouts. In my Pilates and strength class, I've been adding in a lot more cardio during the week. Not intense or super intense, but enough cardio where it's like, okay, we're breathing heavy, we're sweating, and I've been loving that. And then kind of on the other side, really then slowing things down on the day, like on my Friday when I do another full body workout. That is just much more grounding, much more strictly strength focused. And then on my Tuesdays and Thursdays, doing more of like an incline walk or a longer walk on those days. And then finally, how I'm nourishing my spirit. This is just by spending extra time in the morning without guilt of rushing into my day. I think, and I know for a long time, I have really pushed myself to get up, get out of bed as fast as I can, move my body, eat breakfast, start my day super early because I am just more productive in the mornings. But even today, I had my alarm set for 6:30. I woke up at 6:30 and I'm like, why is my alarm set for this early? Like, I really don't have anything pressing that I need to go do until I go pick up milk later this morning. And then I have calls this afternoon and evening, but I'm like, my morning does not need to start so early. So I slept until about 7:45, got up, made breakfast, did my devotional, read through like this little devotional book that I'm doing right now. And then I ate breakfast, made my coffee, went and got raw milk, came home, now recording a podcast episode. And so it's just like easing into the day versus feeling like I need to start everything right away. And I feel like that's just nourishing my spirit because I'm not having such an unrealistic expectation for myself. I feel like I can put my head down and just go and do things no matter how tired I am, no matter how exhausted I am, I'll just push through it. But at the same time, I had the realization, I'm like, you're also growing a human. Like, why are you forcing yourself to do 1,000 things today when like you could really just exist today and you could do the 2 or 3 tasks that are on your to-do list without adding too much to overwhelm yourself. And that's enough. And so I am definitely trying to tap more into that just because I feel way better when I'm not doing that. And I feel like the last couple of weeks, I've really just tried to be a lot nicer to myself in that sense of just not needing to start my day so early for no reason and add 600 things to my to-do list just for the heck of it. All right. So with that, I think we should jump into the bulk of today's episode. Very long, chatty catch up, already at 31 minutes, but that's okay, because I really think that this is an important topic to discuss as we kind of enter into the colder months. I know obviously being end of October, we're not experiencing for the most part a lot of even rain or snow or disgusting conditions like winter can often give. But at the same time, I think the prep work is just as important as actually practicing this. And all of the things that I'm going to talk about, there's 7 things. You do not need to do all of these things. I just want to reassure you of that. There's that balance between doing so much and not doing enough. And I like to think that I'm somewhere in the middle. I probably lean more towards the doing too much side, but I try to just really do the things that I know are going to support my body each day. And these are 7 things that have definitely done that, especially like I said, reflecting on last winter, not really getting sick, even when everybody else around me was sick. I feel like with Nate and I working at home, for the most part, we don't really get a chance to see other people to build up our immune systems. So we kind of do the prep work to build our immune system before we then interact with other people so that we don't get sick or exhausted after we leave social interactions. So we are starting first with my favorite tip, and that is to eat, well, I should say my second favorite tip. My first favorite tip I'm also going to talk about, but the first thing being eating warm foods. And the reason why I think this is so important as we enter into the winter months is because we're keeping our body at a warm temperature. This is something that I actually implemented during the months leading up to when I knew we wanted to start trying for a kid, is just eating warm foods. And the reason that I do this, it's kind of based off traditional Chinese medicine, but you want to keep your internal environment warm. Warmth creates that fertility. It creates just a very cozy system. I don't even know how to explain it. All I'm just trying to say is that when you eat warm foods, it can help your body. Really, if there was a sickness, it has to contribute less to actually digesting your food, less energy, and more energy towards fighting off whatever the cold, the sore throat, the runny nose, the ear infection that you have. And so it's just a way to be a lot more gentle to your body. There's also people that just digest warm foods way better because if you think about it, they're already mostly broken down. This would be a lot of like my hypothyroid clients or my PCOS clients. They just do a lot better when they consume mostly just those warm foods. So as we enter into the winter months, of course, like soups and casseroles and stews sound really good. And I feel like if your body is like craving that, that's what you should really give into. I know for me, especially because we live in Nebraska where we experience all the seasons, I don't really crave a salad in the winter. because I'm cold. I crave a soup. I crave something hearty, something heavy, and not even necessarily like a heavy or calorie dense soup, but just something that's going to sustain me and make me feel warm and cozy inside, because our external environment is cold. It's just a way to warm your internal system. The second one would be consuming warm drinks. So again, maybe this is the time when you swap that iced vanilla latte for a warm latte made at home, or if you go out to get something somewhere else. And the reason that I do this is because I've noticed a difference when I changed my water temperature. This is going to sound very kind of crazy, but I only really drink lukewarm water. I don't drink super hot water or super cold water. Super hot water just because it's a personal preference. I think like warm water with lemon is disgusting. But it's like that lukewarm water, and we have a Berkey water filter. So again, we take water from the tap, we put it in the filter, and then it's room temperature anyway. So I got really used to that. But I noticed that from doing that, going back to drinking cold drinks, my throat gets super scratchy and super hoarse and sore. And so this is weird. So I kind of did a little test on this when I had a sore throat a few weeks ago. I definitely mentioned that on the podcast. I had 2 weeks where I worked 60 hours each week, and it was just way too much for my body. And my immune system was like, hey, you're not resting and you need to. And then I got sick. So I kind of tested it out. I tried doing like a cold drink one day and noticing how I felt. And then I did just warm drinks after that. And with doing like a warm food, warm drink protocol, I felt much better within 2 days. I took no medications, no antibiotics, nothing. Obviously, that would be considered a medication, but I didn't take anything. And I truly just let my body feel supported, and supported it in a way that I knew I could, which was just, again, that warm food consumption, warm drink consumption. And I hadn't really noticed that this was a thing. I mean, I experienced it for my own self until I saw Roxy. If you follow her on Instagram, I think it's like Manna or Wellness Rocks might be her name, but she has a holistic health company, coaching business called something Manna. I'm forgetting the name right now. But anyway, she had posted about how she had a bunch of cold water and cold drinks one day and her throat hurt so bad the next day. And so I'm like, okay, so there is a legit correlation here. And so that is something, again, as we get into the season where you know you're probably just more inclined to get a sore throat, a runny nose, keeping things warm that are going to or through your digestive system, I think can be really helpful in just supporting your body. Again, minimizing the stress on your body by keeping things that warmer temperature. The third one is candlelit dinners, and this is my favorite tip in these colder months because it is getting dark out so early. Here it's around like 7 o'clock. The sun is already setting. Honestly, earlier than that. I got home from leading exercise class yesterday at 6:15, 6:30ish, and the sun was already setting. So the days are getting so short. Daylight savings is coming up here shortly, I think. But anyway, so with that, I think it's very easy for cortisol to get dysregulated because we're using a lot more artificial light during these winter months. And of course, because the days are shorter, you turn on overhead lighting. So something that we have done is adding in candlelit dinners every night around supper time, especially as it's getting dark out so early. When we eat our meal, it's truly under candlelight. We have very dim light on. When we did our kitchen, we got under cabinet lighting, and that has been super great because it's very, I would say, calm lighting. We also, in our living room, we never turn on the overhead lights. We have a lamp actually behind our TV that we turn on, so we never have to directly look at the light, but it's kind of glowing in that area of the room. Things that I just hate overhead lighting. It gives me the most disgusting, it just gives me a headache and it stresses me out. So we dim the lights, of course, and then with that, when we have that candlelit dinner, it's just very relaxing. I feel like it's kind of also that cue to our bodies to be like, okay, like the evening is coming. We need more rest in these winter seasons. It's okay if we start getting tired around 7, 8 o'clock and go to bed earlier because our body starts naturally producing melatonin, I feel like a little bit earlier than it would in the summer months when we probably stay out a lot later. 9 o'clock, you're just getting inside from working outside. And then by the time you go to bed, it's probably much later, and you also probably wake up earlier. I feel like my days in the summertime, spring, summer, I typically wake up around 6 and I go to bed around 10:30, 11, probably more so 10:30. Now it is more like 7:45 or 8, and I go to bed around 9:30-ish. So I truly am trying to sleep with the seasons, live with the seasons, and the change in just the daylight. But with that, again, like I said, coming back to the candlelit dinners, I also had a gal message me, and I thought this was really interesting about how she does this with her kids. And she's like, please continue to implement this when you have kids, because you'll notice the energy in the house is so much more calm. And it kind of signifies, like when you light the light, it signifies the start of dinner time, the start of conversation, disconnecting from technology, phones are put away. And then when you blow out the candle, obviously, then that kind of signifies that mealtime is over and you can get on with the rest of your evening. But I just thought that was really cool. And I'm like, I've noticed that even with my mom being a teacher, is she has really implemented the dim classroom vibe, especially in her office. I feel like I walked in there recently and the lights were all off and she was sitting in there. I'm like, oh, you are in here. It's just dark. And that's because we both just hate overhead lighting, and also how overstimulating it is. And when you notice the demeanor in kids change significantly when those fluorescent lights aren't on, you also understand like they're learning better, they're listening, they're having conversation. And I feel like that very much so translates into how it affects your household. So candlelit dinners, I just could not recommend it enough. I think that it's just something that helps your body wind down at night. Your body should naturally want to produce melatonin. You shouldn't really need to take a melatonin supplement just to fall asleep. If cortisol is regulated, you have no need for that. In my personal opinion, cortisol spikes in the morning, it gradually comes down throughout the day, should be at its lowest point around that, 6:30, 7 o'clock time frame, and then you start getting tired. What really interferes with that, like I said, again, is the overhead lighting, the blue light, the screen time, the watching TV. If you're not wearing a blue or green light blocker type of glass situation, I have glasses and they're not the cutest things, but Nate and I both wear them when we watch TV at night. Your brain is going to continue to be overstimulated, and then also preventing you from getting a good night of sleep. And so anytime that a client comes to me and they're like, I really have a hard time falling asleep at night, my brain is always wandering, I'm like, okay, well, you have to think about what your routine is before you go to bed, because that's probably impacting how well you're sleeping. And if you're trying to do the exact same things you did in the summer, in the winter, it's going to impact your sleep as well, because the days are just shorter. Your body needs a little bit more support probably to actually feel at a state of rest, because we're using so much artificial lighting. All right, number 5 is getting direct sunlight when you wake up in the morning. Again, sunlight before blue light, I cannot stress this enough, but even if it's just sitting underneath a window, something that I like to do is do my Bible study and devotional time sitting underneath a window in the front of our house where the sun is coming up, and I just get that in my eyes. And even though it's not necessarily direct, I'm getting it through a window. I think as it gets colder outside, that's just kind of how it has to go. But again, it's just seeing something that is not a blue screen. It can make you feel so much better. It also stimulates digestion, it stimulates your metabolism to just start your body going for the day. You might even notice an increase in bowel movements in the morning if you get sunlight before blue light. It's just regulating cortisol. It's regulating your body. Your body feels safe and comfortable because it's not being hit with something artificial right away in the morning. You really can just ease into your day. Number 6, adding in warming spices. Now, this is something that I feel like we do more so because we've gotten into making a lot of Indian inspired dishes, and Indian food is just so rich in flavor. A lot of like roasted red peppers, turmeric, ginger. But all that to say, these are just anti-inflammatory spices. They help build up your immune system, fight off any illness. Oregano oil is another great supplement to add in during this time into any, beverages. Usually comes in like a little dropper form. Just herbs and spices, especially like the fresh cilantro or parsley to add into meals, they are adaptogens. So when your body is stressed, they help it adapt to stress, minimize your body's stress response, and overall, when we're less stressed, our immune system is less suppressed, and then we don't get sick. So usually when you get sick, it's because you're living in a state of stress and your body has maybe gone on doing a certain level of strenuous activity or working way too long, being on a screen for way too long, and your body's like, hey, we're tapping out. We have tried to keep you healthy for so long. We can't do it anymore. Then that is when you tend to get sick. So if we can do anything food-wise to increase or decrease our body's stress response and increase the protection that we have on our immune system, I'm for sure going to do it. Herbs, spices are the best way to do that. I also what I've been liking to do is adding parsley to rice that I make, or fresh cilantro to rice that I make, or on my eggs in the morning, I'll do some cilantro. Just finding different ways to add fresh herbs into warm food. I'll also add some cinnamon into my morning coffee, or I will do like a bee propolis in my morning coffee as well, or just do like a spoonful of that every morning and then every evening if I can tell that I'm getting sick. Again, just natural ways to support your body. Honey should either be raw or be like a bee propolis or bee jelly, dependent on what you have access to. And I will do 1 teaspoon, 2 tablespoons, depending on how I'm feeling, to help soothe my throat if I can tell it's getting kind of sore. And that is something too, if you think about when you go to the grocery store and you look for cough drops, granted, cough drops now have artificial and natural flavors, which we know natural flavors are the new buzzword for artificial flavors. Basically the exact same thing, just based off of a natural product. Anyway, and artificial colors. And so it's like, okay, what's the quality of that? You know, knowing that those two things, artificial colors, artificial flavors, are inflammatory, then they're going to cause an inflammatory response in your body, which is why if you suck on 1 cough drop, you probably suck on 8 more, because you just cannot get your throat to actually feel soothed. Whereas if you do honey, it's a different experience because you don't have any extra gunk or crap in that solution. You just have honey in its most raw form, which is so much more effective and also tastes, in my opinion, so much better. So think about that. When you think about things that you gravitate towards, that your body craves when you're sick, add more of that into your lifestyle when you're not sick. Add in the honey even when you maybe don't have a sore throat, or add in the foods that you're craving, like the soups and the casseroles, because your body is craving that for a reason. Your body does not want to have a cold smoothie when you wake up in the morning if you live somewhere that is 30 degrees at night. Like, your body wants to be comforted. When we think about having a cold, I always think, okay, well, what has my body physically been exposed to? Usually cold weather, usually cold temperature of foods or drinks or environments. Like, there's just a correlation there in my mind, at least, of like, if I get a cold, which is honestly named ironically, when I'm exposed to the cold, then why would I then continue to expose my body to that when I'm not sick? Go to the opposite extreme probably, which would be trying to keep things warm all the time. I know it's not possible for everyone. It's not possible if you have a smoothie or a drink that you get at a coffee shop that you really love all the time, then maybe that's not a swap that you realistically want to or could make. But just think about how you can comfort your body in these winter seasons, late fall into winter, because I promise you will notice a difference. And I think it does sound a little wacky when I explain this to people. It's like, if you've never really thought about it, it's like, why would I do that? But again, think about spices, herbs, foods, temperature of your environment, different activities you do. Don't go and do a cold plunge every single day. Go sit in a red light sauna. Like, even just changes like that. Think about comfort versus cold. And that just brings me into my final point. Number 7 is reduce the activities that increase your body's likeliness of getting sick. And I really thought of this when I was thinking about college, and I was having this conversation with a friend this weekend at the Halloween party, how in college we would wear like crop tops and jeans, and we'd just go out to parties or go out to the bars, and it's like, well, why would I wear a jacket? That's just going to throw off my whole outfit. And it was maybe like 35 degrees outside. Like, why did we think that we couldn't wear a jacket. It's just so funny how in college that was just not what you did. You just didn't go out with a jacket because then you'd have to hold on to it all night. Or I don't know, it would ruin your outfit. And then I think about there's a reason everybody was sick, that everybody was passing sickness to each other. We were not sleeping. We were not eating well. We were not drinking good things. We were outside most of the time when it was way too cold with way too few clothes on. And so just think about how you can decrease those activities where you really could prevent it. Like if you're going out somewhere, this is me now. I have this, I call it my sleeping bag jacket. I got it from Fabletics. It's truly a sleeping bag. It goes down almost to my ankles, like mid-calf. And I got a bigger size because I didn't want it to be too tight or anything on my stomach. And so I truly feel like I'm in a sleeping bag. Well, the other day I went out for a walk with Luna and it was like maybe 50 degrees. And I'm like, I'm putting this sucker on. Like we are staying warm this winter. There's nothing cool about not being warm. Like going out without a jacket. It's just silly. Like just put on the jacket. It's okay. You will survive and your outfit will still look fine. Just bundle up. And if you do not live in an area where you have the really, really brutal winters, you might not understand, but it can get brutal here. And it is okay to wear substantial amount of clothing. Okay, it's going to help your body, again, stay warm, stay comforted, avoid getting sick, especially those ear infections. Another thing I always thought I was too cool for was wearing one of those like headbands that covers your ears because they do look dorky. But I'm like, at this point, I don't care. If I'm going out for a run, if I'm going out for a walk, I'm putting that thing on because I already know I'm susceptible to getting ear infections. I feel like I got them all the time as a kid. So now I do the opposite extreme of just wearing it anytime it's probably lower than 65 degrees, that sucker's going on and I don't care about what it looks like. So style maybe isn't the most prevalent in these winter months, but if you cannot get sick and you can avoid passing that on to somebody else, I think it's definitely worth it. Again, living with the seasons, thinking about how you can maybe even just alter habits that you already have that you enjoy doing in a way that is going to support your body as it gets colder outside. And for some people, this might seem very basic. Maybe you do a lot of these things. For me, I don't think I necessarily thought it would be difficult to add more of these habits in, but it was something that I had never really thought about is living with the seasons until I saw, I'm not going to remember her name, but she had posted something about it on Instagram. I saw a reel and I'm like, that is so true. Like, why do we force ourselves to wake up at the same amount of time or at the same time every morning that we did when it was summer, or force ourselves to stay up so late in the winter when really, if the sun is setting sooner, it's probably a sign that our body needs more rest in the winter, which is also kind of confusing because you would think that in the winter months, you're maybe a little less active because you can't really get outside as much as you can in the summer. Your days are shorter. You're probably sleeping more. But if you think about bears live, and I'm not a bear expert, but what I know about bears is that they really start having their kids or their baby bears in the spring. And then all summer they're out and about. And then as these colder months come on, they hibernate, right? They're preparing their body for that whole warmer season for hibernation in the winter. Again, we are not bears, but I think it's fascinating how if we look at animals, a lot of animals do hibernate, a lot of mammals hibernate, and we have become kind of this like hamster wheel society where we think we need to keep going at the same speed no matter what time of the year it is, continue to have a certain expectation for our bodies no matter what time of the year it is, when in reality, like we can have a lot more grace with ourselves when it comes to how active we are, to what we commit to what we go out and do. And I really don't think that there's anything wrong with setting those boundaries because your body is going to signal to you when it needs rest. We just have to stop avoiding or ignoring that voice that's saying, hey, like you need to sleep some more. Hey, it's okay. You don't need to set your alarm for 6 o'clock if you don't need to really get up until 8 o'clock. It is okay to slow down. And if you need permission from someone, take this permission for yourself to rest more this winter. It is okay. You will not accomplish your goals. You will not fail at certain things. Like life will really probably continue very similarly to how it is now, but you will feel much better. if you just support your body when it needs the extra support and you learn how to listen to your body and the signs and the signals that it's telling you that it needs sleep, it needs warm food, it needs warm drink, it needs to just be nourished and taken care of. And the world will go on. I promise. The world will go on. Things will continue to move even if you are less active. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and close today's episode in prayer. But before we do that, if you are enjoying the podcast, I just ask that you either leave a rating or review on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I would love to hear what you're thinking of the podcast. 5-star review, please, if I can suggest anything, just because it helps out the podcast, helps it to grow, helps this just to get into the ears of more listeners. And honestly, more important than any of that, if you could just take this episode or any episode that you've really enjoyed, send it to a friend or family member. It would just mean the absolute most to me. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and close today's episode in prayer. So dear Lord, just thank you for today. Thank you for whoever is listening to today's episode. And I just ask that, of course, they leave today's episode feeling encouraged and inspired, but also maybe a little pushed to start living with the seasons and supporting their body how they need to as the seasons do change, and that they just really emphasize rest and that they give themselves that permission to rest a little bit more as we enter these winter months. I also just pray for our country and just the grace that hopefully comes in these next couple of weeks, that we just give ourselves and give the people around us that maybe don't agree with us, and that we just treat every interaction with love and care and respect. And truthfully, I don't just even know what to say around it, but I just ask that whatever the outcome is that we feel and we understand that you are truly the source of comfort in our lives. We can't find that in any other human, truly just in you, and that we just cling to that in these few weeks, that you are that source of comfort, you are our source of salvation, and that we remember that even when we might not agree with what's happening in the world or what's happening in our country. And lastly, I just pray for safety for everyone listening to this episode, that they leave today and are just ready to tackle a new habit or instill a new habit into their life that is going to support their body and their long-term health. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So if you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram, on Substack, which is a new platform I'm adding in. It's going to be how you receive all your emails from me now. If I truly do this dopamine detox, I want to get away from short form content, which emails just feel icky to me. So it's more of a long-term writing focused content. I'm very excited about it. Also, Bailey Seaton on Facebook if you ever want to reach out to me. And then my email is in the description of today's episode. I am full for one-on-one coaching until December, if not later. So if you're interested, please join the waitlist for any sort of coaching if that is something that you have any intrigue in. And we will start, like I kind of entered into this episode, we can start together the new year in a way that supports long-term health versus a short-term physical goal, which I promise you is so much more fulfilling, because typically when we focus on our internal health, external results or goals that we have for ourselves follow. So I am so grateful for you listening to today's episode, and I will talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye.